All right, guys, it is January the 4th, 2026. This is Hello Crypto, episode 1. Let's get into some crypto, shall we? So we got XRP here on the dailies crossed above the red with the green line. We done broke through that pink line. Now, here's something I've already noticed just right off the rip is that we've created this huge fair value gap right here. And what that means is we got now an order block that needs to be filled. All right. So we want to make sure we mark out those order blocks. And to mark them out correctly, first you gotta get the ABC candles. So here's the A candle. The B candle creates that gap. The C candle doesn't come back and touch the wicks from the A candle. That creates you a gap, letting you know you now have an active order block. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure you mark it out. Once you put your box on it, what I like to do is I double click on there to make sure I get the exact coordinates on it. I highlight it, and then up towards the top here, you'll be able to see the highs and the lows. So, here we have the high is going to be the 188.15 with the low of 182.59. And then what I like to go ahead and do is I add in the text. So we're going to put it in there that this is a we're going to call it the $1.88, and then we'll call it the $1.82 because that would be a good safe spot to put a stop loss. And I'll explain that here in a minute. So we found this out on the daily. So I'm going to go ahead and mark it as on the 1D, meaning on the 1 day candles. And then last thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and hit that lock. That way this right here, nobody grabs it by accident and moves it. It's locked in. All right. So what would we do if we reverse and stuff, which we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit, is that we would pull down to this $1.88. We would be looking at an entry area in here and a stop loss down at the $1.82. Now, if you do get in, you set up an entry here and a stop loss down at the $1.82, you're going to want to take and change your leverage for your risk, okay? Because if it breaks this $1.82, we're probably going to see some lower prices. We still have a lower order block still sitting here at the $1.67 down to that $1.48. So the whole reasoning of stop loss right here is if it decides it wants to do that big drop to here before we take off, you don't take and have to suffer that big loss. You take and you get that small loss and re-enter at a better entry and ride it back up, making more than you lose. Okay, it's all about risk management when you're in here using this stuff. Anytime you're trading anything, you want to have the best risk management possible. So let's go ahead and drop down through the time frames here, and what we're going to do is we're going to look. So we went from the daily to the 4 hour, trying to see if maybe there's a better entry. And right here we do see that we do have some more ABC candles where we did create a gap. It's not as big of a gap as we would normally see, but you do have one here at $1.8573. So about $1.86, $1.87 would be a good place to set an entry in. And as we switch down here to the 4 hour as well, if we look at the we actually look at the visual here, we're starting to get into that overbought area, and now we're starting to curve towards the downside, meaning there could be a pullback to this actual order block down below here of that $1.88. And I would see something like that as a possibility, because we've come up and hit our yellow and touched our blue. We need to pull back down, touch, clear out the order block here to continue up to this $2.23. So right now we're in a climbing mode, but we got to pull back, creating our break of structure. to continue to the upside is what we're looking at. 2-hour time frame, it's also showing that we have pulled up and we have got to pull back down. So we've already destroyed all the pink lines for all other time frames except for the 4-hour. So that's the only one that we haven't hit yet, which means all of the pink lines are going to be down below. So we got the 2-hour sitting at $2. We have a 1-hour pink line sitting down at $1.90, and look, we also have it's telling us here that we're overbought, and we got the signal to sell. Multiple time frames are confirming that on the visual. Pink line for the 30 minutes sitting down at $1.89. 15-minute down at $1.92, and it's already crossing down, showing we're going downward. So shorting moments are right now. 5-minute time frame sitting down at $2.03, and 1 minute we just hit. So we hit the 1 minute. Next up going to be the 5-minute, and we're going to see the 15 and stuff, and follow all the way up through there to be able to hit that order block to the bottom side, and then go back up again. That is what we're looking at for XRP. You know, we love the push. Now, will we see that push all the way down today? I don't know if we're going to see that. It might be something that after the daily candle closes, we'll be able to see. So we'll be watching that one, and we'll do another update in the Discord. All right. Let's see. All right. Now we need to look here. Be just a moment before we step back into the next part of it. Okay, so now let's step over to Bitcoin. Looking at Bitcoin right off the bat, again, on the daily, we've created a fair value gap. So with that fair value gap, it gives us a order block. You got A, B, C candles. C candle did not come back to the wick of the A candle, therefore creating that fair value gap, which validates it as a order block. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll mark this out. Okay. So now we've got this one. Let's go ahead and mark out the coordinates, the high and the low. So our high is at $88,917.58. And our low is going to be $87,552.93. We'll go ahead and drop the text in here for that, calling that a $88,917 to $87,552. And this is going to be on the daily. Okay. All right, so got those marked, locking it so it doesn't move. All right, so here what we have going on. So as I called on the XRP that would be going back down, if we notice here on the Bitcoin chart that I have, we already had an order block. Bitcoin just came up and is now entered at order block, and also just about touched its pink line at $91,932. So this is where we got to look at multiple cryptos, Bitcoin being the leader on wanting to pull the market. So until we can get that breakaway from Bitcoin, we're, kind of relying on Bitcoin as well as on where we're going. But just like I was saying, we got to pull back down. Here we are. We've hit an order block on the upper side for Bitcoin. This one is setting at the low of it. The entry was at $91,579, with the top of it being at $94,468. So we've already come up here on Bitcoin to $91,776 for the day, and it's pulled back. We'd have this order block to the lower side down at that $88,917. So what am I looking at on the daily? I'm looking for is to reverse on the new daily candle to come back and hit this this lower order block, which would help us out for the XRP as well. So yeah, so now we've got that called out there. Let's drop down here and look. The 4 hour says we're in the reverse mode at the moment. It looks like we could see for the 4 hour, we could see a pull up to that $92,094. So we may see on the 4 hours that we go ahead and we come down and touch the green line, and then we come back up to that 92,000 area, which honestly would be ideal because we do have the pink line at for the daily at $91,931. Now looking at the 2 hour chart, that pulling down to the green line for the 4 hour would get us down there closer to that red line, which is something we want to see. That'd be natural, and that would be exactly what our charts call for. You got to have a natural, little resets and stuff upon these breaks of structures. And, even to call it out, when we're looking at the 2 hour here, we notice we have another little order block in here. So that would be that small little pullback that we need to come to, which would get us down to that red line. You'd be looking at coming down to about $90,196. And then, you see it push back up, hit that 92,000 or so. Now, if it was to break down below that $90,036, we may push on down for that lower order block, which would put us right there hitting the 2 hour pink line, which is at $88,948. 1 hour is saying in the visual that we're in a sell position, which, like I just said, it also shows the order block, which for it would be bringing it down just below the orange line, which is, again, exactly what we're looking for. We do have the 1 hour pink line for Bitcoin at $88,286. 30-minute pink line setting down at $88,419. Everything here is showing that, yes, we are pushing down to looking at coming down to looks like possibly the close to the yellow line, if not the yellow line area for 30 minutes. 15-minute time frame. We'll definitely be hitting the yellow line for the 15-minute, but our pink line set down at $89,028 for a 15-minute. 5-minute pink line set down at $90,497. So what it's looking like here, yep, the 1 minute pink line is at $91,332. So we've already started our descent. We already done the 1 minute pink line. The 5-minute pink line's up next. Then you'll see your 15 minutes later on and stuff. So we're going to wind up coming down to hit that little order block that we saw there on the 4 hour. setting at that $90,218. And then we're going to wind up seeing it push back up probably around that 92,000, and then we'll go from there. That is Bitcoin's update. Welcome in, Miguel. Get this one. Oh, one second. And then we'll start on Ethereum next. Make sure I got messages open so I can see anything you type in there. I was supposed to have Jay in here, but he's running behind, I guess. Yeah, he said he'd be ready in about 30 minutes. All right, so now let's look over here at Ethereum. So just like we seen with Bitcoin and XRP, is on this push up on the daily, we have noticed that we have a order block setting here. So we're going to go ahead and mark this order block out. All right, so over the candle here, looks like the high of it was $3,008.77 with a low of $2,971.31. So we'll get that set in there. Let's go ahead and mark it on there so we'll be able to see it easily. We're going to call it 3008. Oops. There we go. And the bottom of that, we're going to call 2009. One. Yeah, because that'll give us a little bit of a leeway there. And this has been found on the daily. We'll mark that. And then make sure we lock that order block. That way we don't grab it by accident and move it. This one, I'm not sure why. Oh, it doesn't have it marked in there. I don't have that one marked on what candle it is, but we are up in it. So that one is being invalidated. That one was sitting at 3,127 up to that 3,183. For the daily, we came all the way up to $3,166 into it. So that also concurs with the Bitcoin and the XRP on that little reversal. Yes, I am recording. So let's see. So yeah, we already come up. We've hit this, and now we're invalidated this order block. We'll be looking at this lower order block again at the $3,088 down to that $2,971. So if you're going to enter it again, always make sure to do a risk management, changing your leverage, therefore that way it's not going to be as much of a loss or anything if it was to break past that $2,971. If it breaks past that, it's broke through the order block. The order block's no longer valid, and that means you would be looking at a lower order block, which for this one, for Ethereum, it looks like you'd be looking at about that $2,756 and a bottom of it at $2,714. So just like I said in the beginning, make sure you always do proper risk management and stuff. Take a small loss if it breaks through it, and re-enter at the better entry and take the bigger win. Stepping on down to the 4-hour, it also shows us in the downtrend area, we do have a lower order block here that is created on the 4-hour. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to mark this one out as well. This will be the one we would wind up hitting before it winds up pushing up again. So let's go ahead and get this marked out here. The top of that one being at $3,068.89. And the bottom of that one being at $3,116 even. And then we're going to put the text in here so that way we can be able to see it on an easy glance. So we got 3,068 is what we're going to call it. And that's going to be a bottom of 3,016. And this one was found on the 4-hour. And then we'll lock that order block so it doesn't move. So what are we looking at? Just like on the other cryptos, Bitcoin and XRP, we're looking at pulling back down here to the order block created on the 4-hour, tapping it, pushing back to the upside for a little bit more, and then to pull back down to the lower order blocks. That's what it's looking like. We'll be watching and monitoring it, and we'll be able to keep an update on that. But that lower order block again that we just had created on the 4-hour was $3,068 down to $3,016. 2-hour, we have a 2-hour pink line at $3,001. We have the 1-hour pink line down at $2,989. 30-minute pink line down at $2,989. 15-minute pink line down at $3,034. 5-minute pink line was already hit down at $3,123. And a 1-minute pink line is up above at $3,139. That is your XRP update, and that completes the Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP market update for January the 4th. Guys, if you like this stuff and it was very educational and helpful for you, join the Discord. And if there's other cryptos you would like to, for me to go over with, we can do that for Discord members and stuff. Um, your support is what helps to get this out there to educate y'all. I'll be starting a training class here very soon. It's it's scheduled out to be about a 6 week course thing, but we're not going to do a whole 6 weeks. We're going to try to cut that down and stuff. Do a few days a week where we'll go in and we'll do the little class part of it where I'll go over um so many sections or whatever, and then you'll get a little bit of homework and stuff to do, and then we'll come back in and we'll check that out and see if how you did on it. If you need a little more education on it and stuff, then we'll wind up going to the next few sections stuff, doing it, and then at the end of it, there'll be a little bit of a test in there and stuff to test you, make sure you understand everything. Because once you've figured this stuff out, you can be able to take and just pull it up, and you're just like, oh man, wow, look right there, there, and there. But the thing is you've got to quit thinking the ways of everybody else has taught you, because if you don't and you try to, oh, well, maybe I can add this other indicator too and add this, when you start doing that, you're just adding a bunch of noise and confusions, and you're not able to see the chart properly. And even though this thing, it points out some of these fair value gaps, it's not marking out the actual order block, the A block. Okay, so like, even looking at the 1 minute right here, we got one right here, we got one right here, there's one right here. Going and saying, well, I'm going to add another indicator, one of these order block indicators and stuff, so we can mark it. But then you want to come to me and you're like, what does this mean? Well, it's not part of our indicators and stuff. You need to learn how to draw your order blocks and why you're drawing the order blocks and stuff before you add an indicator to try to do it for you. Because if you don't know and understand it, how are you going to read it? So it's better to learn this system, untrain what you've been trained. And this thing is just, it's amazing how spot on you can be at trading with this. I've been making a lot of calls. We've made, some good money here. We've lost a little bit, but we lose less than we make. We make more. So that's a goal. I'm never going to say that I'm a financial advisor. I'm never going to say that you're going to give 100% win rate. And I mean, if you take and you learn how to read these and stuff, you could sit down and do scalping trades. But at the same time, you got to remember, a scalping trade is not a long-term trade. You get in, it pumps up a little bit, you make some money, and you get out. It's, you're not trying to ride it to the moon. But now the trades like I'm calling out here on these order blocks and confirming them with our visual and our pink lines and stuff, and how the chart system says, well, that right there, those will give you nice paydays. Because, I mean, if you're able to get in and, choose what you want to lose and stuff, well, then you're going to have your risk set up. You're going to have your leverage in, and you already know what you're going to be going down to. So, and if you don't know exactly what you're going to be doing, let's just take and go back over to, let's just go to, we'll go to XRP just in case. We'll go up here on the daily. Let me stretch this out here. So if I come over to the website, 60strading.com, on here in the navigation bars, there's one that says trade calculator. That's that's one of my favorite things to have here, man. And I want everybody to be able to use that. And that again, that's a shout out to um, Jay Blaine. It's freaking awesome. He created this for me and stuff. I love it. He'll be joining me and stuff, so we'll be able to talk about that. But I can come in here and set my leverage that on a 30x or whatever I want. Let's for instance, let's just look at the XRP and stuff here. So we know we're in a reversal mode right now. Let's just say right now we take and we get in at, let's call it the 208.62. So entry is 208.62. Let's say that our stop loss is the top of that height that we just hit, that 211.95. So we'll call it 211.96. All right. And then we will set a profit. Let's look at the profit area. Say we want to do that 188. And then we do $1,000 margin. And this is going to be a short. We can calculate it and we can be able to see what our profit would be, or stop loss, liquidation level, and stuff like that. And then right here, this shows your ROI percentage if it's executed properly, as well as what your loss would be. So on that $1,000, if it was to push up, are you willing to lose that $480? If not, that's where you'd come up here and you say, okay, let's see, maybe 25x leverage. Lose 400, maybe a 10x is better for you. Yes, it lowers your profit, but look, you're going to lose a small amount versus gain a big amount. It's better to get knocked out on a small loss, re-enter at the better entry, and then ride it. Like I'm in one right now that it's at a 5x. So lose $80, gain 500, almost $500. I call that a win, anywhere in my book textbooks. So use those resources. And then again, just learn this system, unlearn everybody else's, system stuff. Because if you don't know how to draw out an order block, you want to take and add an indicator for calling out order blocks. They're not always going to be 100% correct. And if you don't know why it's calling it an order block and if it's a valid order block or anything, how can you just be able to take and look at it and read it and be okay with it, and then you wind up losing? So you need to learn exactly, how order blocks work and all that, and all the lines before you start adding other indicators and stuff and getting confused. I think it's what a lot of people do. So, and that is the last part of this update. We'll see y'all in the next one.